Welcome to Stormwater Drainage Solutions. I'm your host, Corey Bartolotti. In today's video, we're going to be showing you how to install an open French drain. Now, what we have going on here is a lot of water ends up collecting between the stone and the landscape edging right here, and it floods and it gets towards the house. So we want to install our open French drain right along this landscape edging because that is the lowest point. Unfortunately, the grade is pretty bad in this area here. So for this install, we're going to be using a 3.5 inch pipe made by French Drain Man. The reason we're going to be going with a 3.5 inch pipe instead of a 4 inch is because of the grade here. We are very flat and we don't have any slope hardly to work with until we get to the front yard. Then it starts to fall off and slope towards the road. So back here, we are pretty much going to be running this pipe almost level because we have no slope to work with and we do not want to have to use a sump pump for this install. We would rather drain it with gravity whenever possible than to use a sump pump. So in this area right here, because we have all this pool equipment and the pool pump lines that run underground, we actually are not going to be able to put a pipe right through here. There's just too much utilities. There's too much in the way. So what we're going to go ahead and do instead in that area is we'll put a blind inlet there and then we will run our pipe. So I'll show you that later in this video. But to get started here, we pulled all the stone and put it towards the house. We moved the landscape fabric up to help hold that stone out of our way. And then we dug the dirt out. Now we are going to be leveling the bottom of this trench. So you can see we are putting some dirt back in certain places that are low because we don't want any bellies in the trench. We want to make sure that the trench is a flat bottom trench, and obviously we are going to slope it in the direction that we want the water to travel once we have that slope to be able to do that. But in the back where we are installing the French drain, like I said earlier, that is pretty much going to be almost level. The front yard here, we actually can gain about 2% slope, which is good because this will allow that French drain to drain out completely once the rain event is over. So the French drain, all of that dirt comes out of the trench. We're not putting any of that dirt back. Now, once we switch from perforated pipe to solid pipe, we will then put the dirt back over the solid pipe because we are no longer collecting water with that French drain. We are then going to be discharging that water in a solid pipe. So as you can see here, a trick that we do is we put the level at the bottom of the trench to make sure that we have our fall once we get into a section that we can get the slope that we need to be able to discharge. But pretty much the whole entire back portion of this French drain is almost level. That bubble maybe is just touching the line only by a hair throughout the whole thing. So once we remove the dirt from our French drain, none of that dirt goes back in. What we end up doing is we line the entire trench with a geotextile filter fabric, a non-woven geotextile filter fabric. You do not want to use a woven. A woven geotextile fabric will not allow water to pass through it. A non-woven geotextile fabric will allow water to pass through it. And obviously when you're building a French drain, you want the water to pass through the fabric. What you don't want to go through the fabric is dirt and sediment and sand. This fabric is designed to keep dirt, sediment, and sand out of your French drain and from mixing with the stone. The reason you want to encapsulate both the stone and the pipe is because over time, dirt, sediment, and sand will eventually mix back in with the stone and it will clog the voids in the stone, ultimately making your French drain pipe worthless because water then will have a really hard time getting to that pipe. Now, a French drain, what is a French drain? Simply put, a French drain is a perforated pipe in the ground surrounded with stone and geotextile filter fabric, and it allows subsurface water and surface water to enter in through the perforations in that pipe and then travel through the pipe. The reason the water travels through the pipe and doesn't just fall out of the perforations of the pipe is because water is always going to take the easiest path. Once it finds a void in the ground, that is the direction the water is going to travel. That pipe is just a giant void in your stone. The stone makes up smaller voids, so the water will travel through those smaller voids, but once it finds that pipe and the water rises in the trench, it will enter in through the perforations of the pipe, and then it will start to travel down the pipe. Because the pipe is the biggest void, it is the easiest path for water to take. So here's a little trick. Whenever you're unrolling corrugated pipe, put a shovel in one end. This makes it a lot easier. If you're a DIYer or the average homeowner attempting to install a drain system and you're using corrugated pipe, put a shovel in one end and it allows you to roll it out all the way and uncoil it by yourself, so you don't need an extra pair of hands, even though an extra pair of hands is very helpful. So as you can see here, we're switching over from our perforated pipe to our solid pipe. Our perforated pipe is blue, our solid pipe is white. You want that connection to be very solid. We always tile tape it up because the water is collected in the perforated pipe and then the solid white pipe discharges. We have our blind inlet set around the pool pump equipment right there. So all a blind inlet is just stone encased with your geotextile filter fabric. Then we will start the pipe once we are out of the way of the pool pump equipment and we can get deep enough to set that pipe. Basically, the blind inlet will still allow water to travel through it because water is going to travel through those voids in the stone. Once it makes its way to the pipe, then it will begin to enter the perforations through the pipe and it will travel down the pipe. So a blind inlet can be very useful if you're in a tight situation where you can't get your pipe, but you can still get the filter fabric and the stone. So as you can see here, we have our white discharge pipe that's solid, all set, everything's ready to go. All we have to do now is fill the French drain trench entirely with stone because we are not putting any dirt back in this trench. Once you have the dirt out, you do not want to put it back in. You also don't want to handle dirt twice. So my recommendation is you have two options. Either A, you find a place on site that can use extra fill dirt. Say there's a low spot, a big divot or bowl in the yard that needs to be brought up to grade and can be graded out. You could use the excess dirt there. If you have a landscaping bed that's kind of low and needs dirt, you can move the mulch out of the way, spread the dirt in there, and then put the mulch back over. So you either use the dirt on site or you have to haul the dirt off site. Those are your two options with the excess dirt that comes out of your French drain trench. But you do not want to put any of that dirt back. You're going to fill that entire trench with a pipe and stone, and then you are going to close up the geotextile filter fabric. As you can see here, we're filling that French drain trench up with stone. Now another tip, hold that pipe down. Either step on that pipe, put paver blocks on that pipe, use a shovel to hold it down. But while one person is putting stone in there, the other person needs to be holding that pipe down. The last thing you want to happen is you do not want the stone to go up underneath that pipe and throw your pipe off. You want that pipe at the bottom of the trench. As you can see here, Miguel was stepping on that pipe while the stone was being poured in. You always want to make sure that you hold that pipe down. See, I'm on the other side of the fence right here holding that pipe, and then the stone is going to go ahead and get dropped in. Miguel's going to spread the stone, so on and so forth. The reason you want that pipe at the bottom of the trench is because that is where the water is going to start collecting first. When a French drain moves water, it moves it from the bottom up, meaning the water comes in at the bottom of the trench, it floods in at the bottom of the pipe, and it rises in your trench and in your pipe. Now, sure, the pipe will sweat and water will come in from the top on heavy rains, but the majority of the water, the bulk of it, is going to come in at the bottom. So you want to make sure that pipe is directly at the bottom of the trench because that is going to allow you to evacuate out the most water the quickest. So we have our solid pipe in, as you saw earlier. We have it cut to the length that we want it, and we're going to go ahead and attach a not quite a 90 on there with a French drain man pop-up with turf restrictor plate. That's what we're going to be using to discharge the system. So the trench for this 3.5-inch pipe can easily be dug with a trenching shovel. It doesn't take too much to get this pipe in the ground, and we're going to go ahead and cover the solid pipe back with the dirt because that is the solid pipe. So the dirt will be going back in that trench. But as you can see with our French drain trench, it's filled with nothing but stone and there's no dirt around. We're not putting any of that dirt back. We will then go ahead and close up the fabric, and we will cut the other landscaping fabric that the other stone, the pea stone, was sitting on. We will cut that fabric because we don't want to double up the fabric. That's another very important thing. Do not double up your geotextile filter fabric. Make sure it is just one layer of that fabric going on top. You don't want to double it up because this will slow down the flow rate, because now you have double the fabric that the water has to penetrate through. So the landscaping fabric that was underneath the pea stone that was on top, that we cut out completely where our French drain is going to be, because we don't want that going over our geotextile filter fabric, because then water can't even get through the top efficiently. So we cut that out, and then we just rake the pea stone back over the French drain. In the front of the yard here, the men are putting the dirt back in and packing it down. We will also use water as we pack it down to settle that dirt so it goes around the pipe and really embeds the pipe in the ground so it doesn't move. And the other reason you want to use water and settle the dirt while you are burying it up is because on the first couple of rains, if you do not do that, the rainwater will expose little areas that didn't get filled with dirt. So then you will end up with small little settling and sinkholes around where that pipe was until more dirt gets put back in to fill that void. So you always want to make sure that you settle the dirt in before you put the sod back on top. But as you can see, that just about does it for this job. If you enjoyed this video and you gained some knowledge from watching it, give us a thumbs up. It really supports us. It supports the channel. It helps out what we do. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer them. And if you need French drains, downspout drains, channel drains, any kind of exterior drainage in the Tampa Bay area, give Stormwater Drainage Solutions a call at 813-614-3456. We can come out there, assess the situation, and build a system that fits your needs. And until next time, this is Stormwater Drainage Solutions signing off.